NFL. Thankfully, Pete Prisco's got his top 100 free agents for them to use as cheat sheets. This is his top 10. The top 5 goes Carlton Davis, Chandler Jones, J.C. Jackson, Von Miller, and Teron Armstead, who comes in number 1. Other guys who probably could have been high on Pete's list, Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Jesse Bates, but they are also off the board. All right, time to bring in Pete Prisco and Jason Canfora. Guys, it's like we never left the combine. Pete, I'll start with you. Give me a sense specifically of the top 10. How difficult was it for you to put that together?
It was picked apart. I mean, it's like a carcass on the side of the road, and the vultures already took the good stuff and left, what was still sitting there, and it wasn't very good. I just think when you look at this free agency class, there's some diamonds in it, but I think that the top of the class is very limited. We saw guys get tagged, we saw guys get signed, and a lot of those guys would have been at the top of this list. So it was tough to put the top 10 together. And particularly for a guy like me, I don't necessarily like guys with age, and I think that's part of the problem with this list. If you look at the top of the list, Armstead is up in the years. Von Miller is getting up in the years. Chandler Jones is up in the years. I don't necessarily like to put those guys in the top 10 because I skew younger, but I think in this list you had to put them where they were because this class is really picked apart.
I agree with comparing any of Pete's work to a carcass. I think that is generally a good starting point. I kid. No, it's a tough exercise. Pete's right. This isn't the most robust free agent class in the world. A lot of the guys, even who are going to get paid, are a little more on the wrong side of 30 than you'd like, or have missed too much time recently, or have an injury history. But those are generally the guys who do get there, right? The best young players in their prime, teams are putting franchise tags on, teams are getting extended. I'm fascinated, though, about the array of edge players available in this free agent class. And I didn't do a top 50 or top 100 of my own. If I did a top 50, though, I think about 25% of it would be guys who at least have the ability to get to the quarterback. Some of the ones on that list, and then an Akeem Hicks, Ogunjobi and Agba, and a lot of those guys are on Pete's top 100, just not in the top 10. Randy Gregory is ascending to me. So there is an interesting mix of those guys, Melvin Ingram, but overall, not a great class.
All right, so let's cherry pick a few. Pete, Teron Armstead at number 1. Why him?
Well, I think when he's on the field, he's healthy. He's one of the better left tackles in the league, and that's been the problem, is he hasn't been healthy. I mean, he only played 9 games last year, and over the course of his career, he's missed a lot of time. But when he's on the field, he's one of the best pass protectors in the league. And everybody, particularly in an era where the pass protection isn't very good, we've seen that the past 2 Super Bowls with the Super Bowl losers. If you can find a good left tackle in free agency, why not go out and roll the dice? Again, the injury history is a concern, but when he's on the field, he's a heck of a player.
Well, Pete, I'm old enough to remember Trent Williams having not played much football over a 3-year period of time, right? Neck issues and serious stuff, his head and stuff involving, is he going to be able to put his helmet on and all that? And San Francisco made him the highest paid left tackle in the history of the game, right? That's what free agency does. And Armstead maybe not at his peak quite what Trent Williams can be, but close enough. And when you see a guy like Cam Robinson get franchise tagged the second time, it tells you how desperate people are for tackles. I think you're right. I think Armstead has a chance to make as much money as anybody in this class.
Guys, what do we think about Allen Robinson? Chances he breaks the bank this offseason, Pete?
Well, I think he's been helped a lot by what's happened with the receiver market. I mean, and not just, guys getting tagged, because we saw guys get tagged, but Mike Williams getting signed by the Chargers. But again, here's my concern with Allen Robinson. I think he's a good receiver. The question becomes, is he a number 1 receiver? And the reason I say that is he doesn't run. He's not a burner. He's a 50-50 ball guy. He's a physical guy. If you have a speed guy on the other side, he's a great complement to what you have. But I question whether he is that guy that can really be the number 1 wide receiver. He's good. I don't necessarily think he's great, and I think he's going to get paid like a great receiver.
Yeah, I agree with Tim. With Pete. Sorry. I agree with Pete. Timing is everything. And because of the franchise tags, because of some of these extensions, because of just the nature of the receiver class, with a guy like Antonio Brown who's available, but how many teams are really going to sign him? Allen Robinson is the last guy standing. I heard at the Combine he was looking for upwards of $20 million a year. Do I think he's that guy? No. Would I pay him that? No, but I'm not one of these GMs under the gun from my owner thinking I got to get a receiver, I got to get a receiver, I got to get a receiver. It is a nice receiver draft class, but you never know with incoming talent. So I think Allen Robinson, because of the market factors Pete noted, is probably going to get more than maybe some would say he's worth. And I'm also with Pete, a little bit of buyer beware there because that price tag is going to be inflated.
All right. So again, Robinson coming into the top 10 for Prisco. How about top 100? You guys dropped a few names though, Pete, but give me some more maybe in terms of value guys in your top 100.
You sure you don't want to go to Jeff first over there, Jeff Canfora? I mean, at least I get his name right when I talk to him. My God, this guy. Hey, would you get dinged in the head last night a little bit, Jeff? I mean, what the heck? My God.
I was thinking timing, and somehow it turned into Tim. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. It's not even, I mean, if you would have called me Pat or something else, I'd get it, but Tim's not even close. Look, there's a lot of good value free agents on this market, and that's where I always tend to look for guys who are going to have value. And if you look at this list, Christian Kirk, we talk about wide receivers, and talking to a lot of people at the Combine, he's the guy that might get paid a lot more than people expect. He had 77 catches last year. He's good in the middle of the field. There's some inconsistencies. There's some drops, but he's a great kid and a worker. I think as you go down that list, Valdez-Scantling, to me, that's what I'm looking for. Speed. He can fly. He's the only true, real speed guy in this class, and everybody's looking for him. The Packers were a different offense when he's not on the field. He's 6'4". He can fly. I think he gets a good look. And keep an eye on Tyler Conklin. In talking to people with the Vikings, they were raving about Conklin, thinking that if he gets out in the market, which he is, and he gets a good contract, he's going to become a really good tight end in these offenses, no matter where he plays. So I think those are some of the value guys for me.
All right, so let's talk about quarterbacks, Pete. I haven't seen one yet on your list, either top 10 or value. Who's your highest rated quarterback, and who is it?
It's Jameis Winston, and I think, I know all this talk about Mitch Trubisky, and I know there's going to be teams looking for Mitch Trubisky, but Jameis Winston is a better football player and a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. Yes, he's coming off the injury, and I get it, but he's shown a lot of videos where he's healthy, he's moving around, he's making throws, and I think he'll be fine for the opener of the regular season. I do think he goes back to New Orleans. I think the Saints would make a major mistake not to bring him back. But of this list, Jameis Winston is the best quarterback of the group, which is why I ranked him at number 40.
He's the top quarterback, and it's not even close. He can win for you in the pocket. I know the interceptions and all that. Look, I'm not saying he's perfect, but there are teams absolutely positively desperate for quarterbacks right now. You've seen that reflected in say, the level of compensation the Commanders gave for Carson Wentz. I think Jameis Winston will probably go back to New Orleans. I also think Jameis Winston will make a lot of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers and completely change their offense, activate those receivers downfield, open things up for Najee Harris. Last 5 years in the NFL, Jameis Winston, number one in the league, air yards per attempt, 10.29. Second is Russell Wilson at 9.3. Big drop-off. I think Jameis Winston would make sense in Seattle as well, although I continue to hear they're monitoring that Deshaun Watson situation pretty closely. I think Jameis Winston turned the corner with Sean Payton, and somebody's going to get themselves a heck of a quarterback here.
All right, running out of time. Quickly here, Jason, I'll start with you. What's at stake for Indy and Frank Reich to get it right after the Carson Wentz trade?
Jobs, particularly I would say starting with GM Chris Ballard. I know that Andrew Luck's retirement wasn't ideal, but you can't keep going piecemeal, and missing at the quarterback position. They're certainly in a bit of a bind here. There's no doubt about it. I'm hearing rumblings about maybe Kirk Cousins, so I would keep an eye on that. Garoppolo is someone who they like as well, but he can't throw a ball till July. Just had shoulder surgery. Whatever they do, they better get it right.
If you don't have one, you're desperate. The Colts are now in that class. They're one of the desperate football teams, and Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins and anybody in the draft, they don't solve that problem. They have big issues at quarterback.
Great stuff as always. Tim Prisco and Jeff Canfora joining us here on
Tim,
CBS
that's my
Sports
guy.
HQ. Guys, certainly appreciate it. Pick Six podcast. Where do we go from here? Love it. You know, this was the great vibes that we had in Indy. Now we've got it on HQ. Why Frank Reich's gamble? We just talked about that, of course. NFL futures, odds breakdown, and the Russell Wilson trade. Host Will Brinson and the Super Friends.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.